Introduce yourself first.
My name is Yudhoyono from CSIS. Reading the title of the book is a question, and what is the answer of that? Because we talk about the Yudhoyono Presidency in the last 10 years. Take, for example, if you look, we need the yardstick, a clear yardstick of that. Take, for example, democracy index for Indonesia in the era of Yudhoyono is increased. It seems to me that the title of the book not stability or stagnation, but along asal pelakon. This I think is the good title for the book, because if you look, the democracy index is getting better. If you look at the human development index, even though they think about the education, it means that the education in the human development index increased significantly. And if you look also, the corruption index is also increased but slowly. So what is the reason we just say stability and stagnation? Probably you can explain more. But in poverty index, Gini, for example, increased from 0.32 in 1999 to 0.41 for all Indonesia in 2013, and it's very difficult to explain why Jogja 0.43. It's very difficult to explain, I think. So, would you elaborate more on what do you mean the yardstick could be used and mention the stability and stagnation of it? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Rina from CSIS. I have short comment to improve my presentation. Actually, I agree almost all to her presentation, but I have different view on the women political representation, because on the number of women legislature in the parliament, and also the case of not re-elected women, I don't think it's nothing. It has nothing to do with SBY. I think because shortly after the election, we had a chance to interview Ibu Nurul Arifin and Ibu Novarianti, and she mentioned that the problems she faces is not more on the internal party, politics, so it's kind of rivalry and competition among women, men and women within the party. So about political party democracy, because Ibu Nurul mentioned that in her area in West Java, the competitor was Pak Ade Komarudin, who's the Golkar elite with very strong influence. So she was not competing with other candidates from other parties, but within the parties. It's also same with Ibu Nova, because I think he elected from the East Java, but then in Jakarta, but then the party transferred her to East Java, so she has to start it from the scratch. So this kind of thing that we need to be more objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Fadia. I'm from the Commission for the Discipline and System of Analysis, Contrast, a human rights organization based in Jakarta. I would like to ask Mr. Pomsa regarding the statement about the military is going out of politics, because I want to ask what kind of measures that you took to say that military is actually out of politics, since we know that military power still holding a great influence in several political issues, in conflict areas such as in Papua, and then there is candidate from the political party such as Yudhoyono that's still holding the influence in the government. And then, as we know that the military influences is actually related to the human rights abuses, past abuses, which we still not resolve, in the Indonesian government still not resolve the human rights past abuses until now. And then that is actually related to the military power in Indonesia right now, that actually pointing to us that military power is still under the government influence. So that's all.
Thank you very much. So I think the first and third question to Father, and the second question to Ibu Nala, please.
Can I ask a question also?
Maybe
Thanks, Ron. Okay. Can I first, and maybe for the second question, maybe Steve can also contribute to that issue of women's participation. So about the first question, stability and stagnation, I think when we discuss the use of those terms, they kind of mean the same, but the connotation of what people associate with the meanings is different. I think stability would probably for most people be something positive. It means something that cannot be shaken, that's something that remains the same over a long period of time, but in a positive sense. So if your marriage is stable, you probably think it's a good thing, but if it's stagnating, you probably think it's not such a good thing. And I think that can be referred to politics as well. If something remains stable over a long period of time, that means that the system in itself is not under immediate risk of breakdown. And if that system is a democracy, and if we, from a normative perspective, think that it's a good thing, then stability should be a good thing. But the system constantly needs to be reformed in order not to get stale. And there we found that Yudhoyono did very little in providing new impetus, providing new measures to deepen the democracy. And therefore it was also stagnant. You mentioned democracy. Freedom House is the most widely used in the United States, for sure, amongst academics around the world. And there, between 2004 and 2013, once, and that goes back to the other question, once the military was out of parliament, and the non-elected members were out of parliament, Freedom House gave Indonesia the same score every year. So if you want to see that as a good thing, it's stable, but the score was 2.5, and the highest score is 1. So it was also stagnating because Indonesia did not move forward towards the 1. On the contrary, I think in 2013 it was downgraded to 3 because of the almost law, which was sort of a contentious measure. So therefore, yeah, the two things mean very similar things, but I think in our minds they indicate something very different. So had we picked only one of the two terms, I think the other aspect would not have been reflected. And on the third question about the military, so yeah, when I said military out of politics, I was mostly referring to the formal institutions. So military out of parliament, no more appointed members in parliament. The defense minister being a civilian, so formally it's under civilian rule. But of course you are right, there are lots of pockets of influence, and we've seen most recently in the last few months that they were never really gone and are now slowly coming back into various areas again. So again, an area where Yudhoyono could have done more. But him being a former general, of course, he has personal interest in keeping certain networks. Though, about in political parties, I tend to see a difference between retired generals and active generals. And even though Wiranto leads Hanura, I think his influence into the military nowadays is limited. And the same goes for Yudhoyono to some extent, but of course he had a personal interest due to his family connections not to revisit certain military stories from the past. Either the Papua referendum, these things Yudhoyono certainly did not want to be revisited. So even though I think he did quite well to professionalize the military in many ways, there were of course limits to that professionalization. Okay, so
yes, if I could make a couple of quick comments on two of these issues. Firstly, this question of stability and stagnation. I do think it's important that we not forget the extent to which the SPY regime, the SPY administration did maintain stability in a way that is actually neglected, I think, in the book collection. If you look at it, my chapter included is very, very critical, a series of specific issues. But if one takes a historical perspective on this, the broad sweep of Indonesian history since 1945, I think we could conclude that the SPY years were very, very important in the sense of what they led to just in the last election. If we placed ourselves back in the mid-1950s, mid-1960s, mid-1970s, or up to the 1990s, and asked ourselves the same question, if there was an election between a very, very powerful former general, closely connected to the Suharto family, he was one candidate, his opponent was a furniture manufacturer from Solo. Who would win? In 1990, of course, everyone would laugh. Of course the general would win. There would be no question about it. But Indonesia saw an election between an extremely powerful figure, a very, very complex relationship with the legal elite, of course, but a very, very powerful ex-general against somebody from the backwoods, an inexperienced mayor of Solo. But it was the mayor of Solo who won. Now, I think that's a tremendous achievement for Indonesian democracy. And that's not because of what SPY did, but I think we do need to give credit to the stability side of the SPY administration and what his efforts did lead on. The problem, of course, and this is one of the points that I make in my chapter, is that not enough was done with the stability that was maintained during that 10 years. There were so many opportunities that could have been taken up, but were not, and therefore stagnation. Just also quickly on the issue of the role of the military in Indonesia. I do think it's very important to distinguish between the individual influence of particular people who are generals or are ex-military and the institutional power of TNI. And that was sort of implied in Bert's response to some extent. As he said, after all, SPY was an ex-general. Last election, we saw a former military figure almost winning. We see another candidate in the previous election who were under from the military. Of course, there are a large number of individuals with a military background who are still influential in Indonesian politics. But that does not mean that the military as an institution has institutional power over the direction of policy and over the direction of politics. An important exception to that, of course, is in military policy and security policy. The powerful influence of the territorial command, the very internalized, non-defense posture structure that the military is advocating, the fact that it's still resisting taking an outward view of a defence force and strategic policy is still partly because of the institutional influence of the military. So certainly in that area, the institutional power of the military is still very strong. But that is one where you would expect the military to have some institutional influence. The point is, I think, is that despite the number of individuals with a military background who still have influence in politics, the institutional control and stranglehold over Indonesian politics is something which is being replaced. And that, I think, is partly as a result of SPY's efforts.
Thank you for pointing to the fact that we need to address about the situation of political representation. I agree with you. It is not SPY's fault for that kind of actual condition. It shows the condition, the overall condition, that there is no political will from a political party to actually prioritize women in their representation. It can be, for example, first of all, there is a quota. And to address the quota, political parties put more women, but put it in the bottom of their list. And then it's revised. There's a revision that you should put the women at least not, an alternate after male female. And then there's still a problem with that. Actually, this is not indicating SPY's fault. In fact, we can argue that his own party fares much better as compared to the other parties. Actually, he has, in the last election in 2014, more than 20% of the elected candidates from Partai Demokrat are female. And he appointed the women, Nur Hayati Asegaf, as the chair of the party's faction in parliament, and appointed more, I think, female minister. And it's noted that this is the first time an Indonesian president had made such a conscious effort to appoint the female representation in his cabinet. So that is true. It is not because of this SPY. The only the thing that actually SPYs contribute in affecting negatively the political representation is his nepotistic political system by giving his wife and his son important position in his party. That is, I think, a gesture that do not give a good model for political representation. And also a lot of problem in his own political party in terms of corruption, etc. So I agree with you. This is not it's just to give the picture of the political representation in general. And this is what he fails to transform. The male bias, the political structure in Indonesia. Something that is still over to be transformed.
Thank you, Professor Malan. I wish I can give you more time, but again, I'm really sorry. I think we have to end the discussion and then we can continue the discussion.